Hello everyone, it's day 14, it's me Matt, it's the Explorer's Box. Let's get cracking. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a nice little leather cover for, in this case, a hip flask, but the principle could be used for a bottle or a thermos or any sort of liquid carrying vessel. Every adventurer and explorer is going to need to take some sort of water or liquid or wine with them as they go adventuring to either hydrate them or keep things interesting. So I'm going to show you how to add a nice leather coverall and fastening bit so you can attach it to your kit very easily. I've done a Blue Peter, I've gone and made a tester beforehand to figure out what we're doing. So you're going to want a store-bought hip flask, or like I said, could be a plastic bottle or a thermos flask or something that carries liquid. You're going to want some paper and some writing implements. I've already made my pattern, but I'm not going to show you that because basically what we do is we make the pattern to fit the object. So yours is going to be different anyway. We're going to want a ruler and a scalpel, or you could use some scissors if you've kept scissors nice for leather. You're going to want some leather. In this case, I've got some nice offcuts. You're also going to want some rivets, a hole punch, a hammer, and in this instance, something to hammer onto and with. I'm going to use the end of a screw to hammer my rivets in so they keep a little bit of a dome. And then you're either going to want a D-ring or one of these little, they're like little carabiner, carbine.
It's a lead clip, isn't it?
A lead clip.
Dog lead clip.
It's like a D-ring with a little clippy.
Oh, it's a lobster
doodad
claw.
on it. Is that what it is?
Yes.
A lobster
sorry,
claw.
I didn't have my glasses on.
Cool. Well, one of them things. That both of them are optional. There is a loop. Everything is multi-purpose, like usual. So there is like a belt attachment or a loop that you could put a ring in. You can do whatever you want. I've gone for a D-ring. And for the next one, I'm going to go for one of these little lobster claw doodads. Right. Righty-ho. So you're going to want to take your store-bought liquid container and a piece of probably A4 paper. That's what I started with. And we are going to cut and drape our paper into a sort of an around the object kind of way. So I've cut mine so it's slightly shorter, top and bottom. You could do it the whole length if you wanted. And I've got about a 30mm inch and a something or other overlap. Onto that, I've then marked out some rivet holes because we're going to have a strap that goes underneath all the way up, and it's going to loop on to the top.
Could you show?
So that's yeah, I'm about to. That's all right. So for the strap, again we've gone similar. Width of a ruler because it's easy enough to do. It's about 30 centimeters. Not 30 centimeters. That would be ridiculously large. It's about 30mm, and that ends up being roughly the internal width of a D-ring or a lobster or the loop we used in the tool loop. Could be anything. So I've gotten quite clever with this loop, and it's actually going to do a lot of things all in one. This one is just under 30 centimeters. So this one's about 29 centimeters long. In theory, what's going to happen is it's going to start at the bottom, it's going to start underneath, it's going to loop round. No, it's that way. It's going to loop round and it's going to hold the canteen or the hip flask in place. That will then end up attaching down there. It's then going to carry on. It's going to fold over. The end of this is also going to end up being riveted in the bottom there. And then, either, depending on your preference, you're going to rivet, I don't know if you can see that, you're going to rivet in those 4 holes in the back, and that makes a nice loop. Or you're going to do what I'm doing, and rather than looping in like that to have all that excess, we're going to rivet all those bits of leather, and you're just going to have a small loop. The great thing about that is oftentimes rivets are one length, and just doing 1 or 2 bits of leather together can be too little for a rivet, so they can end up bending over. You know, when you hit them down, they won't go like that, they'll go whoop-pow, and that's rubbish. Because we're attaching all of our excess leather all together, it's going to be quite layer heavy, but it's going to mean the rivets are extra strong and doing what they need to do. So, I hope that was easy enough to follow along. But we're then going to draw out our pattern piece with appropriate writing implements onto our leather. Once that's done, of course, the tool I've forgotten to mention, we are going to get our cutting mat or appropriate board for cutting, and we're going to cut our 2 pattern pieces out. So I have also, working out where my holes are, I've drawn them on. Going to get our trusty hole punch, and wherever that offcut of leather went. Right, then with your offcut of leather, we're going to use the smallest hole on the hole punch. Again, that's about 2.5 millimeters, and we're going to punch all of our holes. So that's all of our holes. I was about to say drills. No, drills are involved in the making of this little canteen pouch. We are going to need a grand total of 8 rivets. That's it. Loads of holes, only 8 rivets. Now, that's basically the work done. We've just got to be very clever with how we attach. So I'm going to walk you through it. Some of these holes, because I've drawn them on with a big pen, they're not quite perfectly square. Don't worry about it. You get better as you go. You know, I'm still not doing perfectly straight rivets. Not that that's a surprise, but don't worry too much about it. You're not going to see them because they're on the back. So, with mine, this I've done a straight and a curved edge so we can work out which goes where. The curved edge goes on the front. However, that's not the first one we are going to attach. What we are going to do is I'm going to drape the strap over in the configuration it's going to be. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do these top 4. I'm going to put my little lobster claw. You're going to want to get your rivet. I'm actually going to put all 4 of these in together because it keeps everything lined up. If you only put 1 in, you could end up with your leather like that, and that's not what we want. And because they are leather rivets, they will pop together nicely and will, for the most part, hold themselves together and to account. and we won't have to worry about them falling off. Now this bit is quite confusing, it's why I had to make... I did 2 tests in fact. The first one I did was in some really nice thin leather and it looked lovely, but when I shimmied it up onto the hip flask, it we basically stretched and it didn't look as nice. So I've selected a slightly thicker leather. This stuff is about 2mm thick. So, as I said, I'm going to pop all 4 of these rivets in place. Don't be scared about measuring twice and working it out. Take your time over it. You don't want to find you've had a rivet go through too many layers. Where's that last one? Been a right little so-and-so. Come on you. You know you want to behave. This is where because my holes are slightly out of alignment, that last one's finding it tricky to get through. But there we go. So, that is half of our rivets that we're going to use in place. Now, Andy is going to follow me over to our hammering area and I'm going to give these a nice wallop. So we are here in the bashing district. I'm going to take a trusty little bolt and I'm going to use the bottom face as a very small hammer, and I'm going to strike with that so that we only hit 1 rivet at a time. I'm using a bit of steel pipe to hit onto so that I can get the work in and out of it. You could use the horn of an anvil, you could use another hammer. There's plenty of things you can use to bash onto, but you are going to need a nice strong surface. So let's do the last 2 here. It's all relatively painless hammering. I used to, in the past, just put them all on and whack straight down and get some lovely nice lines in the middle where my hammer had hit more of them, but they are pretty good. A little bit skew-if, but you know, that's not too bad for this. Now what I have done is I've sneakily brought the other, well, I had brought the other rivets until I dropped them on the floor. Fortunately, I've got some more, so I'm going to do this one here. That again is 4 bits of leather going together. Let's find the last hole. There you are. Get my arm all nice and in the way of the shots. That's definitely what you want to see. A nice caramel cardigan rather than the work that we're showing you today. Then I get my second rivet, push that in place, and see, we've kind of got a tube going on at the minute. I'm going to put that on my bit of pipe. About to bash them just with the hammer then. Get my trusty bolts. Number 1 and number 2. Couple of whacks. You want to be nice and firm with it. Always go back and do it again. You want the back to be nice. You get that focus? Nice and squished. Just like that. And then we're going to take the front. I'm going to pop that behind so it's hidden. I'm going to go through there, into there, get the last head, and one more, put the last bit through. Get my trusty bolts, the most professional of all the hammering implements. Last rivet, nice and firm. Make sure you use the correct side of the hammer. And then give it a nice gentle wallop to finish it off. And there, my friends, is one finished hip flask container, coverall, sleeve, cozy, one of those things. Right, let's get back to the table. And there we have it, just a few simple materials and a shop bought liquid container, and we've got a nice little in character water bottle or flask or thermos or whiskey canteen or whatever you fancy. It was a bit of a pain getting the leather on top of the hip flask because of course the leather is rough and the hip flask is super smooth, so it frictioned to itself, but with a lot of help from Andy and some silicone spray we got it on there in the end. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.